Welcome back to the double leg. I'm one half of the show, HOF Picks. The other half of the show, the parlay. Joining me in to break down some UFC St. Louis. Let's get into it. All right, we got a pretty good fight night card to break down here in St. Louis. Live crowd, always love to see that. Main event, Derek Lewis versus Rodrigo Nascimento. Co-main event, Joaquin Buckley and Nursultan Ruziboev. So two pretty exciting fights, probably some violent fights. But before we get into the breakdown for that, let's recap last week. UFC 301 had an absolutely great night for me, for the Home of Fight Picks members. Went up 8.87 units. We cashed the 5-unit bomb on Joanderson Brito. Cashed a lot of other big plays on the over 3.5 in the main event. Mauricio Ruffy, moneyline KO, and then a bunch of other ones, and then went 3 for 4 on the parlay. So it was a great night for me, and it was a card that I felt good about, and I went in on it, and it paid off. So glad to see that, and glad to help out the Home of Fight Picks members. How'd it go for you?
Yeah, I ended up down just under 5 units, all because of 3 over-under plays that didn't hit that I thought could have easily hit. One was 20 seconds away in Paul Craig and Barajo. And then, I had the under in the oral by fight. And every time it looked like he was getting ready to knock out Brenner, he goes for a takedown. That one screwed me. That was a big play because it was at plus money. And then I had another one with Ishmael Bonfim and Vince Pichel, and I thought Bonfim kind of backed off of chasing a finish in that fight as well, which was probably smart on his end. So those 3 were 3 of my biggest plays of the night. And then I went on and hit Jose Aldo money line. I was pretty confident he was going to come in and look very technical and good, and he was. Joanderson Brito, which I know you were big on as well, he looked phenomenal. I actually liked that, he fought really smart in that fight. He didn't come out there. He did come out there swinging, but he wasn't, going all out on the finish in the first round. He put him up against the cage. He slowed him down. He worked the legs. And, overall, Brito looked like an absolute monster. Hit the under in the Borshchev fight. I had the fight to end by KO with Drakkar Klose and Silva. I thought there was multiple times where Drakkar was going to put him out. I thought there was a time at the end where Silva was going to put him out. And, Drakkar, going for the little cage push in there in the middle of the fight really ate those minutes up. And, I knew at that point, I was like, this isn't happening for me. So that sucked. But other than that, I thought I made some good reads. We hit some bets, gave back the profit from the week before. But this week's UFC St. Louis with a lot of good spots again. I'm going to be there live. I feel like every time you've been there live, or I've been there live, we've absolutely killed the cards. I think it makes you work a little bit harder when you know you're going to be in the crowd. So I'm pumped for this card, man.
Yeah, so after UFC 301, my premium picks on Home of Fight Picks are now up over 25 units on the year. So it's starting May. We'll hopefully continue to grow that, especially going into this week. UFC St. Louis, a lot of fun fights. We're going to go through, give a breakdown for every single fight. We'll give you a pick, but they're not always the bets. If you want the bets, jump in the Home of Fight Picks premium membership. The link is down in the description. Without any further ado, started off with the first fight of the night. Veronica Hardy coming in as a slight favorite against JJ Aldrich as the slight dog. Veronica Hardy, 28 years of age. She has completely turned a tide in her career. She had that long layoff, and then it looks like she got married to Dan Hardy, changed the name, and it looks like she's a completely different fighter now. She had that 3-year-long layoff, comes back, beats Juliana Miller, then last time out beats Jamie Lynn Horth. She finds herself here as a favorite against JJ Aldrich, who has picked up back-to-back wins against Na Liang and Montana de la Rosa. What are you thinking on this one?
Yeah, this is I was telling you before this, I'm just not the biggest fan of JJ Aldrich's game. And I faded her in the past, and it's bit me in the ass. I faded her against Montana de la Rosa because I thought de la Rosa was just going to push her up against the cage, be stronger. It didn't work out that way. Faded her against Jillian Robertson. She beats her. So, yeah, every time this line, and whether she's a slight underdog or right at pick'em, she always seems to make it super close, or she'll just win by, a decent margin. to where the fight's somewhat close and walks away with it. And that's what would scare me here, because JJ Aldrich is good everywhere. I don't think she's great anywhere, but her boxing has gotten better over the years. She throws decent volume. If you want to engage in the clinch and in the wrestling, she's happy to do so. We saw her finish Na Liang on the ground with some aggressiveness for once in her career. So I think she's a fighter that is constantly getting just a little bit better and a little bit better. But she's not great, like I said. She's not a fun watch whatsoever. And then standing across from her in Veronica Hardy is a girl who really struggled, on that first stint in the UFC, loses to Ashley Evans Smith in her debut, Andrea Lee, Jillian Robertson by submission. Some of those girls like Andrea Lee and Ashley Evans Smith especially aren't the best, highest level of talent in my opinion. But she beats Polyana Viana and then loses to Bea Malecki, comes back into the UFC 3 years later, was a plus 300 underdog against Juliana Miller, and then absolutely mops the floor with her because Juliana Miller got found out, fraud checked, if you will, outstruck by double the strikes, taken down 4 times, and had no answer for Hardy. Comes in against Jamie Lynn Horth as either the slight underdog or right at Pick'em, I believe. Yeah. Wins a split decision, but even though it was called a split, I think Veronica Hardy definitely looked better in that fight. I thought she won no doubt. So Hardy's another girl, even though she's had the long UFC career with a break in the middle, she seems like she's turned the corner and she's getting a lot better as well. I think on the feet, she's going to be probably more aggressive. I think she hits a little bit harder. She does throw slightly more volume. And then, if it goes to the ground, she's pretty dangerous there as well, in my opinion. I like that she's, obviously married to Dan Hardy, but that's kind of the offensive and game planning mind behind her camps, behind her fighting. And he's done a very, very good job with her. I think she's on the up and up once again. I'm going to take her here to beat JJ Aldrich. I just think she's going to have, to the judges at least, she's more aggressive, a little more polished on the feet. And, in that type of fight, I think she can steal it on the judges' scorecards. I do think it's going to a decision. I do think it's going to be somewhat close. But I'm not ready to get off the Hardy train just yet. I think she's still got more to show.
Yeah, I've never been a JJ Aldrich guy. But she does have a way to just find herself in these fights that are like fairly close because she's not an aggressive fighter. She's not really super skilled in any one facet. She's just kind of good overall. I just think the biggest gap here is going to be the athleticism, the speed. I think Veronica Hardy is going to be able to land body kicks, land leg kicks. She's going to be faster with her hands. And I think that'll probably edge her on the feet. And I think her grappling is maybe a little bit better as far as, the BJJ goes. Aldrich might be a little bit better of a wrestler. But Veronica Hardy's been, I guess, working on her powerlifting, working on her strength, because she was a girl that was fighting at like 135 and had absolutely no business fighting there. At 125, I still think she's like somewhat a little bit undersized, but it's good to hear that she's been working on her strength. And I just like her having Dan Hardy in her corner. I just think that's been really good for her growth as a mixed martial artist, and especially going in with game plans. I think Dan Hardy's one of the best. You listen to that man talk about fights, he knows what's going on. He does a lot of research, and he's really seems like he puts his heart and soul into like Veronica Hardy as a fighter. He looks very confident in this fight. I'm pretty confident in this one too. I like Veronica Hardy in this one. At minus 145, it's not terrible. Maybe you could juice it up to a Veronica Hardy decision, but it's probably not going to be that much better. Maybe like plus 110, plus 120 if you're lucky, because this fight's chalk to go to the decision. So, yeah, I'll take Veronica Hardy. I like it. Moving along, we got Jared Gooden coming in as the underdog against Kevin Jousset. Sit at minus 240. Jousset, this will be his third fight in the UFC. He's 2-0 now. Jared Gooden coming off a upset win against Wellington Turman in a fight where he was losing and then caught him on the feet and got him to the ground and pound, and then rear naked choked him. So this is his second stint in the UFC. He's now 1-1 in his second stint. He's a guy that's going to come in and really just try to box your head off with big combinations. Kevin Jousset, training out of City Kickboxing. He's a kickboxer with some judo background. Looked really good in his last time out. I would probably say that's factored into the line here because he just demolished Song Kanon for 3 rounds. was never really in danger in that fight. But he's coming in here against a guy that's probably going to come forward and swing some big hooks. What are you thinking?
Yeah, it's an interesting one. And, on paper, and you hear the matchup and just recency, in your head, recency, biased. It looks like Kevin Jousset's just going to come in here and dominate on the feet. He's a big, strong dude. I don't think he's going to be getting taken down much against a guy like Jared Gooden, but I think there's still a lot to be seen on the Kevin Jousset side. He beat Kiefer Crosby, not the best high-level UFC fighter in the world. He beat Song Kanan, who looked slow. He looked uninterested, just kind of got his face jabbed off. And once he didn't have an answer for the jab, it really, took the sails or the wind out of Song Kanan's sails in that fight. Didn't look like he wanted to be there. Got doubled up on the strikes. And, if you're going to stand in front of Kevin Jousset like Kanan did, you're going to lose the fights because he throws a lot of volume. He throws a lot of jabs. And if you don't have the head movement and anything like that, he's going to land. He's going to do damage. It's going to make it hard to breathe when he starts hitting your nose. And he's going to take over the fights. He has pretty good cardio. He lasted and was able to throw 134 significant strikes and land them in that Song Kanan fight, which is good to see if you are on the Jousset side. And for Jared Gooden, against Wellington Turman, was losing the fight up until he was able to kind of clip him, got a takedown. He gets the win by submission. Very impressive. But, Wellington Turman's a guy as well that hasn't had the most, pretty UFC career. He's now on a 3-fight losing streak. He's got a handful of other losses at this level. So, good win for Jared Gooden, but not over the highest level of competition. And this fight against Jousset's going to be a complete different style than Wellington Turman. I think Jared Gooden is good. I think he's powerful, definitely dangerous on the feet. When he's winning fights, I guess his only other win in the UFC was by knockout. And the one thing that concerns me with him is if he doesn't find that knockout sometime in the first round, then he starts getting jabbed up. I don't know if his cardio is the style to go 3 rounds and win those last 2 rounds or win the second and make the third close. I think if this thing does get extended, Jousset's going to pick up the volume. He's going to make Gooden tired. He's either going to find the finish or walk away with some kind of decision. But again, Jared Gooden is a very dangerous guy. It's going to be a fun fight. There's still to be seen for me on Kevin Jousset. Like I said, the 2 opponents he's had so far, not the best. He has looked very good. But, we see it all the time. Once you get the next bump up in competition, sometimes these guys don't look as good or they can get a little bit exposed on some of their weaknesses. So far, we haven't seen him from Jousset, and I just don't like it. I don't like putting my money on a guy that, we haven't really seen be tested yet. So I'm going to take Jousset for the pick, but I'm not very confident at -240 taking a bet on him.
Yeah, I'm not super sold on Jousset at this point. I mean, Kiefer Crosby, Song Kanan, not like 2 names that I would give too much credit to. He does look like he has some good skills. Like, I was kind of impressed with the way that he handled that Song Kanan fight, just sticking behind the jab, doing what worked, and cruising to a decision victory and a dominant one at that. Jared Gooden, he's got to make this kind of a dogfight. I think he's a guy that I don't think has like great skills. He's got decent boxing. I'd love to see him work the body a little bit, get inside, because Jousset has a decent frame, 6'2", and he likes to fight behind it. So I think Gooden's got to make this a dogfight. I don't mind the price, honestly, because you look at the guys that Jared Gooden has lost to, like Carlson Harris, Randy Brown, Abubakar Nurmagomedov, Impa Kasanganay. Like, I think all those guys are probably beating Kevin Jousset at this point. I could probably say that. Maybe Jousset is better than we think, but at this point, I don't really know. And Jared Gooden is fairly durable. Like, all of his losses in the UFC come by decision. If you like the Jousset side, I'd probably take him by decision, because if he does win, I think he keeps it clean and fights behind the jab and just kind of outworks him. I think he'll win the minutes. Jared Gooden might be able to win, the moments in this fight. It's kind of what he did against Wellington Turman. Turman was looking good, and then he just landed a big combo, got him to the ground, and finished him. And his only wins in the UFC come by finish. So maybe it's a Gooden by finish only type of bet or something like that. But I'll take Jousset for the pick because I do think he'll probably be able to stay out of danger, being young enough experience with kickboxing and mixed martial arts that he's able to stay safe. But I don't really love the price. It's pretty chalky for a guy that I don't really rate too highly, and we don't know yet. So I'll take him. Moving along, we got Charles Johnson sitting at plus 130 against Jake Hadley, sitting at minus 175. Hadley coming into enemy territory because Charles Johnson is from St. Louis. The man is 33 years of age. He's coming off the biggest win in his career, the win that probably saved his UFC career. And it was, again, against Azat Maxim, and it pulled off an upset there. Won a 29-28 decision victory. He was on a 3-fight losing streak. Arguable that if he lost that, he's probably getting cut. But he finds himself fighting in his home city here as an underdog against Jake Hadley, who's one of the younger prospects that has been somewhat hyped up in the flyweight division. What are you thinking?
Yeah, Charles Johnson in St. Louis with a little bit of momentum coming off of the Maxim win. I don't know. He's such a wild card. Like, there's times when you think he's just going to lose to guys like Maxim as a dog, and he comes in and he just weathers the storm. He's got great cardio, and he makes it very close. And then Jake Hadley, like you said, he had some hype coming into the UFC, and right off the bat, he loses to Alan Nascimento in a fight where he was just taken down and controlled. Right? I think Hadley was able to get off 8 significant strikes in that fight. Nascimento under 20, so just not a lot of action, kind of boring. That's not what this fight's going to be with Charles Johnson. And then if you look at Hadley's wins, Carlos Candelario by submission, and then knocks out Malcolm Gordon with a body shot and very early on into the first round. It's like those wins aren't the best in my opinion. Loses to Cody Durden. So Jake Hadley still there's a little bit of unknown with him as well. I think he is a kid though that's younger. He's going to be constantly improving, getting better and better. And then against Charles Johnson, if he goes out there and gets Johnson hurt and just try to empty the tank, I think he's going to be in serious trouble here. It's kind of like Maxim was. But if Hadley stays patient, I think he's a fighter that should beat Charles Johnson. I think probably skill for skill. I would say his boxing's a little slicker on the ground. I think he's more of a submission threat. Wrestling wise, like Hadley hasn't shown the best takedown offensively in the world. Takedown defense struggles a little bit as well. But I don't think Charles Johnson's going to come out here shooting takedowns by any means. So I think this one plays out on the feet. If you look at who's going to be throwing more volume, it's definitely Charles Johnson. Who's got more intent, aggressiveness, and power? I think it's definitely Hadley. But Charles Johnson's a guy that you're not really going out there and you're not going to knock him out. He's lost all of his losses in the UFC come by decision. So yeah, the last thing that kind of worries me, if you're on Jake Hadley here, is that Charles Johnson's just losing to wrestlers. Cody Durden, Rafael Estevam, Muhammad Makayev, like those are his losses. Guys that stand on the feet with him and he's able to keep on the feet and drag later into fights, he wins. Azat Maxim, perfect example. Azat Maxim almost had to finish, emptied the tank and got tired. And when you get tired against Johnson, he's just going to expose you as the fight goes on. So yeah, it's a tough one. But with the momentum and everything, I think Charles Johnson has the ability to at least get this thing to a split decision. And then you're in St. Louis, home crowd on your side, Skullet gang, maybe you get the little sway from the judges there. So I'm going to pick Charles Johnson to win the fight. I do think it's going to be very, very close though, because Jake Hadley's good. There's just times when he makes these little mistakes here and there. And, if he can't keep up with the cardio in rounds 2.5 or in the second half of the second round and the third round, I think Charles will have a good chance to win a close one.
You think Charles is going to get a big pop from the St. Louis crowd?
I mean, he's
from there.
St. Louis is a town where, we don't have the football anymore. We don't have a basketball team. Like, they rally behind these hometown celebrities. Dude, look at Nelly, the rapper. Nelly wasn't that good of a rapper, but he's from St. Louis. He had like a million people from St. Louis on his side all the time and shouting his name.
Johnson to Nelly now.
Oh, dude, yeah, you can. In St. Louis, oh yeah, dude, their hometown people it's insane. Like the small, St. Louis in the middle of Midwest, in the middle of nowhere. They get somewhat semi-famous person, they're rallying behind them, dude. I promise.
Well, he might need it because this fight could probably go to a decision. I mean, Charles Johnson's never been finished, and Jake Hadley never been finished either. So this fight's probably going to play out on the feet. I know both guys are probably licking their chops because you look at their losses, it's when they're getting taken down. Like Hadley, it's Nascimento, Durden. Charles Johnson, it's Makayev, Durden. And the only fight that really played on the feet that he lost was Ode Osborne, but Ode Osborne even was shooting for takedowns in that one. So, yeah, I don't know. I mean, I think Jake Hadley's probably going to have more impactful boxing combinations. Charles Johnson might be a little bit faster, be able to skirt around the cage a bit, bigger cage too. I know his entire career been in the
Apex.
The Apex. I think every fight except for the Makayev fight, he's been in the Apex. So maybe he is going to feed off that St. Louis crowd. But yeah, I think Charles Johnson is not a bad play as a dog because he's a guy that's going to throw a lot of volume. He's got great cardio. If he does get taken down, he's usually able to pop back up. And that's really just been his kryptonite. Like, guys just been kind of be able to rinse and repeat takedowns. And I don't know that Jake Hadley's really going to shoot. I think it just comes down to how well he can handle, a Jake Hadley body shot over and over again. Yeah. If he's going to stand in the pocket with him. Because Jake Hadley's going to want to get in the pocket. Charles Johnson's probably going to stay to the outside. And I think Jake Hadley will probably be able to get on the inside, land good combinations, be a little bit more impactful. And I would say that's going to sway the judges to give him the decision. But you said we're in St. Louis. Charles Johnson is this big celebrity. So, man, give me Charles Johnson as the dog for the pick in St. Louis. The legend of Charles Johnson, the Skullet, is getting the dub in St. Louis this weekend. I'll take him.
Here's the thing. Like, Charles Johnson threw out the first pitch at the St. Louis Cardinals game tonight.
Is that for real?
Huh?
Is that for real?
Yeah.
Wow, I didn't know he was like.
I mean, not many people come from our area, so we get one with some notoriety and we rally behind him. No, St. Louis is different than like a Vegas card, and I think we talked about it before. Like Las Vegas, you get a lot of people who just care about the main card. You get a lot of people, celebrities, yada yada. And they come from the main card. St. Louis gets one card. I think the last time was 6 years ago. So like people that are buying and going to this card are people that want to be there for the full card. So I think there's going to be a lot of asses in seats before, like Charles fights and Sean Woodson, like these guys that grew up in St. Louis. I think there's going to be a decent crowd there too by the time he fights.
Let's go. Skullet gang. Next fight, we got Billy Goff coming in as the underdog against Trey Waters, sitting at -175. Trey Waters, you see the frame on the screen, 6'5". He's 29 years of age. Billy Goff is 5'10". So he's going to have a pretty big disadvantage when it comes to the height. He's going to have a 4.5-inch reach disadvantage as well. So when these guys are in the octagon, you're going to see it. Trey Waters is a big dude. Billy Goff kind of on the smaller side for a welterweight, but the guy fights like a junkyard dog. He's a guy that's just going to keep coming forward and just throw everything he's got into these punches, take a shot to give a shot. And he's coming off a win in his UFC debut against Yusaku Kinoshita, where he went all the way to Singapore and got a first-round knockout via a body punch. And then he ground and pounded him out. Trey Waters is 1-0 in the UFC as well. Took a fight on short notice, 2 weeks notice to be exact. Well, actually, it was like 6 or 7 days, maybe even less. But he had a fight 2 weeks before that fight. Debuted against Josh Quinlan, got a decision victory there as an underdog. So both guys coming off their UFC debuts as underdogs, cashing, and they're going to face off here. Trey Waters, the favorite. What are you thinking?
Yeah, before I get into this, maybe I'm just dumb, but Billy Goff has landed 2 takedowns in his UFC career, including Contender Series, but he's got over a 4.04 takedown average per fight.
Per 15 minutes. So it's like
okay, I got you now
because it was in the first round.
Threw me off there. I was like, what the hell are they doing here? But so I mean, Billy Goff, like you watch this guy. And he's the definition of a junkyard dog. Contender Series fight, dude, he took a head kick, and I thought he was dead. And he somehow stays alive long enough to where his opponent gasses out a little bit, and then Billy Goff just can land a big shot. His opponent's worn down. He gets the finish. He seems like he's damn near impossible to put away. We've seen him be hit quite a few times, hard too, and he just doesn't quit. Like if you watch the regional scene, he's got other examples where the guy is just like a zombie walking forward. Great chin. and he fights Yusaka Kinoshita, like you said, travels to Singapore. It's a home field fight for Kinoshita. Kinoshita had a massive knockout on the Contender Series. I think everybody was excited about him in the UFC. And then, he's lost 2 in a row now. And Billy Goff absolutely demolished him round 1 with that body shot. I just don't know how he's going to fare fighting a guy who's 6'5". Like, that's always a massive question. 6'5" at 170 pounds is that's just massive in my opinion. 77-inch reach. You got Billy Goff at 72-inch reach. If Trey can kind of slow this fight down and just make it a technical boxing fight, I think he's going to have a lot of success, because Billy Goff, like we said, is a guy who's a dog who likes to march forward, get in the pocket, land some big shots up close. But if you can't get close to Trey Waters and he's just hitting you with the jab and the leg kicks, I think it's going to be a tough fight for Billy Goff. And I love Billy Goff as a fighter. He's the guy that you want to buy the ticket for to watch these shows, because he's always going to put on a performance and make it fun. But, even against Josh Quinlan for Waters, Quinlan was a big knockout guy on the regional scene who had a ton of power and, liked to march forward and just lay opponents out. He wasn't able to get close to Waters. Waters landed over 100 significant strikes in that fight. Josh Quinlan landed 50. And, the size, the difference in size in that fight is going to be similar to what it's going to be between Goff and him here. I like Billy Goff to maybe outlast Trey Waters here if they get in some kind of firefight, and then he comes on late and starts putting it on Waters once Waters isn't moving as quick. But if that never happens, I think Trey Waters doubles him up on strikes, slows this fight down, and we get some kind of decision with Trey Waters winning unanimously. I'm going to take Trey Waters here because of the size, because of the technical striking he's got. He throws pretty good volume as well. For Billy Goff, he's just got to land that one big shot. But yeah, I'm going to take the bigger guy here.
Yeah, everything on paper tells me to take Trey Waters, but there's one thing you can't account for on paper, and that's the heart. Billy Goff, he's got the heart, man. He's a junkyard dog. And I will say, I know he's undersized, but the way to beat a guy when you're undersized is to just keep coming forward and just be relentless. Get to the point where this guy can't stay at range and just pop you with a jab. I think Billy Goff's got that mentality. I think he could go in there, get in the pocket, rip some body shots, because the guy, I think, has really solid boxing. Like, you watched it in the Kinoshita fight. Like, he's able to continually march forward and land really good combinations, whether it's down low to the body, up to the head. And I think he's got a good chance to get this one, because Trey Waters 6'5", but that chin's going to be way up in the air. It's going to be right there for him. Rip to the body, right hand overhand right to the chin. I think Billy Goff has a good chance to pull this one off. And he could mix in the wrestling as well. So I'm going to go with the junkyard dog. And I kind of think this line's going to move towards the Waters side. So I might just wait, see where this line goes. But if I'm going to bet an underdog, I want a junkyard dog. That's Billy Goff. So I'll take him.
I'll be interested to see if he uses the wrestling at all. Because, if he's not having success, at range with a big guy like this, Billy has shown that, he's a very strong guy. And on the regional scene, he gets some really good takedowns. He'll pick dudes up, slam them on their head. So, in this fight, if he's not having success, maybe that's something he falls back on just to win some minutes in this one. Because both guys obviously new to the UFC. I think there's still more to be seen on each side. But, as far as if this does become a firefight, this could have fight of the night written all over it.
I agree. Moving along, we got Tabitha Ricci coming in as a slight favorite against Tecia Torres, which is now Tecia Pennington, because she got married to Raquel Pennington and just had a baby. We checked it before the show. It was June of 2023, so about 11 months ago, she had a baby. She's coming back here. Back to the UFC. I think her last fight was about 2 years ago. She's 34 years of age. She's coming in as a slight dog. Her last fight was Mackenzie Dern. She took a loss, then had the kid, and now she's coming back against Tabitha Ricci, who is coming off a loss against Lupi Godinez. She's 29, and she was on a little bit of a win streak. She fought Lupi. Lupi was just a little bit better than her on the feet, and she took a loss. She's looking to bounce back here as the favorite. What are you thinking?
Yeah, I'm on Tabitha Ricci here, and half the reason being that Tecia Torres, Pennington, just had the baby less than 1 year ago. And, that's a big change to the body. That's, you go from being an assassin in the octagon trying to knock out opponents to being a mom. Like there's got to be some kind of hormone change in the body. I don't know women's biology all that well, but then now you're kind of a family woman. Probably doesn't have as much time to train, if I'm being honest. I mean, both her and her wife in the UFC, Raquel Pennington, champ, just had a camp a few months ago. While she was going through that camp, I'm sure Tisha wasn't doing all the training that she probably wanted to leading up to a fight. So for Tabitha Ricci, she just seems like she's always in the gym. She's got that kind of CrossFit style training where she's going to be in phenomenal shape. She's going to be able to fight all 3 rounds. Her boxing is pretty good. She's good on the feet. She can mix in takedowns as well. She averages over 3.3 per fight at a 41% clip, which is pretty good. She's pulled off some submissions in her career too, with the armbar against Jessica Penne. Other than that, she didn't really have any finishes in the UFC, but I expect her to have more volume here. I expect her to have the more cardio. I just don't know. Watching the tape, I mean, Tisha Torres is about Tabitha Ricci's size as well. Tabitha's used to fighting girls a few inches taller than her, a little bit longer than her. And now you're giving her a girl at the same size, coming off having a baby. A lot of obligations outside the octagon, where Tabitha Ricci seems like she's trying to get more focused than ever in the gym. So everything for me points to Tabitha here. Tisha, good fighter though. She's tough. She's durable. She can mix in different aspects of mixed martial arts as well to make this fight close. But from a technicality standpoint, I got to go with Tabitha here.
Yeah, it's like I don't think Tisha Torres or Tisha Pennington is going to come into this fight in bad shape. If you look at her IG, she's like already shredded up, 6-pack. She looks to be in great form. And I don't know that it's necessarily like having a baby, but it's just really the time off. Like 2 years since your last fight, and then you have to bring a life into the world, and then turn around, get into a training camp, get back into shape, make sure your weight's okay. And then Tabitha Ricci's just kind of in the groove of things, fighting every 3 to 4 months, just coming off a loss. She's probably going to be motivated to go in there and get a win. She's younger. And ultimately, I think she's probably going to have the skills to beat Tisha Pennington at this point. Like, Tisha's a point fighter. She's just a karate-style point fighter. And she could, I guess, just stay to the outside, use that karate sidekick, and just stick and move. And that's a real possibility. And that's kind of what I'm thinking this fight could play out to. And Tabitha Ricci, I think, has got to close the distance, maybe even mixing some of her wrestling. Tisha Torres, not a notoriously good takedown defense, sitting at 61%. I think that'd probably be the best path to victory for Tabitha Ricci, is to get some takedowns and just don't let Tisha get into a groove from the jump, because she's going to have the ring rust going in there. Tabitha's been more active. She's younger, yada, yada, yada. I think Tabitha should probably win this one. But she's got to have the right game plan. If she just goes out there doing what she did against Loopy, where it's just like, I'll just stand and strike with you, she's going to lose, because I don't think she's a better striker. But we'll see. I don't know. I'll take Tabitha for the pick. Not a confident one, just because there's the unknowns of Tisha Torres at this point. But I'll take her for the pick.
Yeah, from like a motivational standpoint, I think Tabitha probably has aspirations of getting to the top of the division and hopefully one day fighting for a belt. For Tisha, like, her only losses in the UFC come against girls like Rose Namajunas, Andrade, Joanna Jędrzejczyk. I mean, the Rose loss was nearly 10 years ago. It's 2016. And then Andrade through Madrina Rodriguez was, 2018, 2019, time off, family now. Like, I don't know how motivated she really is to keep doing this for all that much longer. Like, maybe she goes in here looking for, looking to see how she, bounces back or how she responds after everything going on. And then she'll decide how much longer she wants to do this. But I don't know. I think Ricci's probably got the fire lit under her ass more than Tisha here.
I kind of thought Tisha was retiring after her last fight, because I mean, she was 30, 32, 33 at that point, and she was on the win streak, took a loss, and she's like, all right, I'll have a baby now. I don't know if she had the thoughts of coming back or not, but yeah, very weird. Moving along, we got Terrence McKinney Coming in as the dog against Esteban Ribovics, sitting at a minus 187 price tag. Ribovics, 28 years of age. Terrence McKinney, 29. We all know the story on Terrence McKinney, man. Just an absolute stud in that first round. And if he can't get you out there in the first round, he's probably getting finished in round 2, if not round 3. Esteban Ribovics is a dangerous boxer, but he does lack a takedown defense. And Terrence McKinney is just a force to deal with in that first round. Very tough to defend because he's so explosive. He can wrestle you. He could land big shots. So he's in for a run for his money in that first round. But at this point, it's like, can you really trust Terrence McKinney to get it done against upper level, competition? We don't really know how good Esteban is. Like, Terrence McKinney's coming off back-to-back wins against Brendan Marat and Mike Breeden. So he keeps taking these fights where it's like, all right, it's probably an easy first-round finish. But he's getting Esteban Ribovics here. He's a dog. Ribovics, I think, is pretty good. Really solid hands. Takedown defense needs work. But I think he's probably the rightful favorite. But I don't know that I would bet him, because you're talking about Terrence McKinney. Like, he could finish anybody in that first round. What are you thinking?
Yeah, I think if you're on McKinney, you might as well play round 1 finish because, Ribovics is a guy that we saw it against Kemwela Kirk at UFC 290 that, he loses the first round. Did he get dropped in that fight too? I forget. Oh,
Kemwela Kirk?
He either got taken down multiple times or dropped.
Ribovics got taken down in that first round for like almost the whole fight, or almost the whole
just
round.
Gave up the whole round. And, bounces back really strong after that. After being taken down in the first round and not, landing hardly anything, he lands 115 significant strikes the rest of the fight. Just absolutely turned up the pace and the volume and broke Kemwela Kirk down and won the fight. So you got a guy that you obviously know can fight for all 3 rounds. We saw it against Loic Radzivov too. He dropped Loic early in the fight, but then he was taken down 11 times, and he still made the fight pretty damn close. It was a unanimous decision, but part of me thought we were going to see Esteban get his hand raised if you take the damage over control, approach to that one. But he comes on very strong in the second and third round, which is the complete opposite of Terrence McKinney. Like, if Terrence McKinney wins the fight, it's almost 100% has to be in the first round because you're not going to beat Ribovics in 2 and 3 if you're halfway tired. And McKinney has shown time and time again that once that fight hits the second round, he's getting finished. He has no gas left. He kind of gives up his back or gets put out with a big shot on the feet. And his last 2 wins are Mike Breeden and Brendan Marat. So he's not really fighting and beating the best competition. And before that, his other wins are Eric Gonzalez, Fares Ziam, and Matt Frivola, which is obviously a good win. But outside of that, man, he just loses to a lot of guys that have good cardio. Ismail Bonfim, we just saw went to a decision with Vince Pichel and kept the same pace. Nazim Sajikov, great wrestler with some power, and he was able to survive round 1 and after being taken down, and then he just goes out there, takes the back, and submits. I just don't know if Terrence McKinney, I see a lot of people putting their money on him as the underdog this week. And for a guy in Ribovics who's never been finished for one, who knows how to survive, who can also crack. And, when you take him down, he's very good at getting back to his feet. I just don't know if Terrence McKinney is going to finish him. If he doesn't, this is Ribovics all day. I think I'll probably play Ribovics round 2, round 3. I think that's a mandatory bet against Terrence McKinney every time Terrence McKinney's out. Odds aren't probably going to be that great, I'll be honest. But, I just don't really see McKinney winning this fight in the first. So give me a Esteban Ribovics.
Yeah, it's like maybe even just a better live betting spot to take Ribovics after round 1 if he can survive. But the only thing that scares me on the McKinney side, or I guess betting against McKinney in this fight, is like Ribovics so easily gets taken down, and like McKinney could just take him down once and sub him. Like, it's pretty much what he did to Fares Ziam, and I don't think it's going to take much to take down Ribovics. And at the same time, Ribovics got to worry about that takedown. It's in the back of his mind almost every fight. Like, I get taken down all the time. I got to defend this. Maybe he leaves himself open to getting hit with something in round 1. So, I mean, shit, man. Like, Terrence McKinney round 1 seems like an auto bet damn near every fight.
Yeah.
Now he's at the dog price. So I don't know. Maybe you just do a McKinney round 1 and then a Ribovics round 2 because that's like how every fight goes. Because McKinney usually doesn't get finished in the first round unless it's Drew Dober. Like Drew Dober has the ability to put somebody out that fast. But you look at his other 2 losses: round 2 to Sajikov, round 2 to Bonfim. And then his wins are really against bums. His last 3 wins are against bums, straight up. Like he's not beating anybody good. Ribovics, I have high hopes for just because I love his boxing. He's got to clear up the takedown defense. For a pick, I'll take Ribovics. I'll take him for a pick, but I would not bet minus 187. You're better off just taking a prop, round 2 or round 3. I don't believe that there's really any value in that one because McKinney's going to come out hot, and you're better off just taking Ribovics live after round 2 or after round 1. So,
and there's no chance at a third round in this fight, in my opinion. I mean, McKinney, like all of his wins are round 1, and every single one of his losses, besides one of them, are round 2, and the other one he got finished in the first. So, another thing that I'll touch on a little bit, and some people don't really put too much stock into this. I do a little when you're fighting guys at this weight class that are really dangerous. McKinney wasn't that long ago. He's out there partying with a bunch of celebrities on his Instagram. Like I'm talking like 4 or 5 weeks ago, out there partying in clubs in Vegas and various parts of the United States. I think this guy probably, talent-wise, one of the most talented fighters in the UFC, but I don't think he cares to put in the work that some of these championship level guys are. And, that's probably half the reason why we see him have 4 minutes of cardio all the time.
Yeah.
So yeah, if he hasn't been working too hard, I don't know if he's a good dog pick this week, but it's going to be a fun fight either way. You're going to see a finish for sure.
Last thing, we all know like McKinney comes out hot and then he gasses, but like, is there ever going to be a fight where he just does the complete opposite? Like,
no,
I don't think so. Calculated. Like,
I don't think it's in him. I don't think.
I feel like it's going to come where he doesn't come out crazy. He doesn't gas. Like at some point, it's got to happen.
But that's kind of a losing game for him because like even he's losing fights in the UFC, but I think they're always going to keep him around because they know he's going to come out and make it a firefight.
Yeah,
and so it's like I can come out here and get paid. Who cares if I win or lose? They're keeping me around. I'm gonna get paid again in 4 months.
Yeah.
Like, but I don't know.
Loss here, you could just pick up 2 Apex fights against bums and knock him out for round 1.
Yeah, I wish he would take shit 100% serious and put like his whole entire because dude, he could be so damn good.
If he had a gas tank, he'd be insane.
Oh, dude, he'd be fighting for titles.
Yeah, crazy. Moving along, this is a matchup I'm looking forward to. Chase Hooper coming in as a plus 40 dog, plus 140 dog. Vyacheslav Borshchev sitting at minus 185. I believe the line has swung a little bit in the Hooper side. So he's coming down. I think he's probably plus 110, plus 120 at this point. But Borshchev, 32 years of age. Hooper's still only 24, man. That's crazy. Yeah, how many fights in the UFC he's got right now?
He's got a bunch.
To be exact, he's got 8. He's 24 with 8 UFC fights. This will be his 9th. That's not even including a Contender Series fight either. So he's still young, but he's got some UFC experience under his belt. He made the move up from 145 to 155, and he's been undefeated since he has done so. So looks like that's a good move for him. Borshchev, coming off the win. No, it was a draw against Nazim Sajikov at UFC 295. Insane fight. I think that was probably one of the best fights of the year. Showed a lot of heart in that one. Nearly got finished in round 2. Comes back in round 3. Wins round 3. Goes to a draw. But before that, had a round 2 KO over Maha Shot. The real thing that comes down to this, it's striker versus grappler. Borshchev, I think, is one of the best kickboxers in the lightweight division, but he can get taken down by a gust of wind. And if he gets taken down by Chase Hooper's got some nasty jiu-jitsu, could probably put him away. So this is one where one side's going to look really good, I think, and the other side's going to look really bad. Either Borshchev KOs him or pieces him up easily, or Hooper gets one takedown and snatches something up and he looks like he should have been minus 400. What are you thinking?
Yeah, I mean, this is opposite of styles as you can humanly possibly get. You got Chase Hooper, who for being as young as Chase Hooper is, one of the most dangerous fighters on the ground in the UFC. mean, this guy, you go to the ground with him, and if you're not on his level, if you're not a high level brown belt or a black belt, like he's going to submit you. We saw against Jordan Levitt. Jordan Levitt likes to get fights to the ground and submit guys, and he submitted him under 3 minutes in the first round by taking his back, using his length, getting under the neck, and that's all she wrote. But the one thing that worries me against a guy like Slava Claus here is if you can't get the takedowns, because Chase Hooper isn't a wrestler. I think people like kind of confuse the whole grappling thing.
Yeah.
And if you aren't watching a ton of Chase Hooper's fights, he gets like opportunistic submissions, or if he just grabs onto your back or even gets taken down, and it's amazing how he can get to your back from being on bottom. If he doesn't have success in any of that, like he's just going to get starched on the feet. Like Slava Claus isn't a guy that just has power. This guy is crafty. He's slick. His combinations are insane. He mixes up his body shots well. And he's just a very, very high level striker. But again, man, Chase Hooper, all it takes is one mistake, one overextension, one time where you overswing and give your back just a hair. And this dude's got you in a body triangle, and he's about to strangle you out. So, oh man, I've been bouncing back and forth on this fight all week long. Because at plus money like this, at plus 140, like I think if you're betting money lines here, Chase Hooper's probably worth a shot because he does have that danger factor on the ground with the submissions. And Slava Claus is not a grappler whatsoever. He's not a guy that's well versed in jiu-jitsu. This dude is a striker. So yeah, if you do like Chase Hooper, look at the submission props here. Plus 140, not a bad price on the money line. But you do run the risk of holding the plus 140 ticket and coming out there and he just gets smoked within a minute with strikes. I mean, we've seen it before. Who were we talking about earlier? Steve Garcia just completely torched this kid, knocked him down 3 times in round 1. The ref could have stopped in well before he did. This dude was just eating shots and falling and hoping that Garcia would make a mistake and just follow him down onto the ground. But Slava won't do that. Yeah, man, I'm gonna take Chase Hooper here because I got a weird feeling about this fight. But this is one that could very well just Borshchev could come in and win just as easily in the first round as Chase.
Yeah, I can't wait to see how this plays out because
it's going to be a meme either way.
Yeah, I mean, it's striker versus grappler, but at the same time, it's like terrible takedown defense on the Borshchev side versus terrible takedown offense on the Hooper side. So it's like I don't even know if Hooper gets in on an entry, if he's going to be able to complete it. But it maybe only just takes one. The thing with Borshchev is he gets taken down a ton, but he just finds a way to work his way back up eventually. The only real fight that he got taken down and controlled in was the Diakese fight, where he got taken down 11 times and got held down, literally just held down. Like Diakese didn't land any ground and pound, held down for 12 and a half minutes. I don't think Chase Hooper is going to do that. He also got taken down 9 times by Mike Davis, but he was still able to almost land as many significant strikes as Mike Davis did. Got held down for 8 minutes there. I think there's a way where like Borshchev can avoid getting taken down. And if he does, like I just think like Steve Garcia is gonna come part 2 here on Chase Hooper because I don't rate his striking very well. And honestly, I don't really rate his competition level very well. Like you look at his wins, Jordan Levitt's not a guy that has any real stand-up. He's a guy that wants to get you to the ground as well. I think that was a perfect matchup for Chase. Nick Fiore, not much of a stand-up either. More of a grappler. Felipe Colares, not much of a stand-up guy. Like he's beaten grapplers really, and just able to out-grapple him. Borshchev, I think, as I said, one of the best kickboxers in the lightweight division. He's been fighting guys like Sajikov, Mike Davis, Chris Duncan, Mark Giacchese, even Mahashad knocked him down 3 times. So I'm going to go with Borshchev, but it's one that's, you can't really be too confident in it just because of the clash of styles. It's one way or the other, and it's going to be one-way traffic, whichever guy gets to their spot earlier. So I'll go with Borshchev, though.
Here's the problem fighting Chase Hooper is, even if he does land a takedown and you have a good get up game, it's almost getting up that's the part that puts you in the most danger against him. because, you give your back for a split second, he's on it. Like if Chase Hooper's on top of you, you can survive, but it's just when you're getting up and he can snatch your neck or take your back, that's when you're in some real shit. But even in this fight, like if he just gets his hands locked in the clinch one time and just kind of falls back and makes Borshchev land on top of him. Like I said earlier, Chase Hooper can take the back from being, on his back. It's crazy. And the flexibility and dexterity. And my last point is that Chase Hooper is a kid that's getting stronger too. I mean, we've seen a massive difference in his frame from the time he came in at 18 years old till now. He's starting to get a little bit stronger, started landing more takedowns. Like when he came into the UFC, he's landing one here, one there, 0-0, and then 3-4. I don't know. We'll see what happens. Maybe it's just a hope and a dream for me, taking Chase Hooper here. But yeah, I think both guys are as dangerous as they come in their own mixed martial art specialty. So should be fun.
We'll see if he could eat a Borshchev bomb.
And might not be able to.
Moving along, we got Waldo Cortes Acosta coming in as the dog against Robeles Despaigne. The Cuban missile crisis. Robeles Despaigne making his return. Comes in at 6'7", 87-inch reach. Coming off a first-round knockout against Josh Parisian in his debut. He's taking on Waldo. Where's Waldo? Well, he's going to be in St. Louis this Saturday, getting his head slapped off against Cuban here. He is 4-1 in the UFC. His only losses to Marcos Rogerio de Lima. I can't wait to watch Robeles Despaigne again this Saturday. Who do you think pulls it off?
I got Robeles here. And dude, he is so, like, we saw him at Miami. Like, we were massive. We weren't even that close to the octagon. And you can just tell this dude's towering over everybody. Like, a lot of times, like, when we were in Kansas City and we were sitting on the floor and, like, the fighters walked past us out of the arena and we're on the same floor as them, same level. It's like, damn, these guys are small as shit. Like, you don't realize it on TV, but, like, these 155ers and 145-pounders are not the biggest people. Despaigne is towering over everybody in the audience and everybody in the octagon, getting everything prepared for the fight. Like, this dude's a giant. And what impressed me most in his debut, it wasn't the knockout. I think we all saw that coming. But the fact that he's doing it while he's running backwards. Like, Josh Parisian was storming him with shots, and he clipped him with every shot, moving backwards, like left, right, and then just one right on the button, sat him down. End of story. Waldo Cortes Acosta is definitely going to be better than Josh Parisian. His striking is going to be more technical. He's got a lot more volume, better cardio, better shape. He's faster. I just don't think it matters when you're going up against the guy that's this high level as Robeles Despaigne. I mean, everybody's going to talk about the Olympic medals in Taekwondo, which is fine. I just think he's naturally a very athletic and good striker. He's got great kicks, and the power, being 6'7", and he knows how to use his weight and his size and his length. At some point, he's going to clip Waldo Cortes Acosta. Like, even if you have a great chin, I don't think it really matters as much against this guy. This dude hits so hard. He's so accurate too. I expect him to win this fight. Maybe it goes a little longer than the Parisian fight. Maybe we get to round 2 here to see. I mean, this is a guy that if you're not going to wrestle him up and put him on the ground, you're just not going to have a great chance against him at this level until you get to the very, very tip top of the division. And Waldo Cortes Acosta is not a guy who's coming out looking for takedowns. The guy's never attempted one in the UFC. I don't expect it to be now. Like, if you're not a good wrestler, I talked about this with you before the show. Robeles Despaigne, with his strength and his length and his size, he's not a guy you're just going to go out there and grab a single leg, and drag down to the ground. Like, you better be a very high-level wrestler and know what you're doing to get a dude like this to the ground. And while it's on the feet, you're going to be at a massive disadvantage. This dude, even against Cortes Acosta, who's 6'4", the 78-inch reach, you're still up against 6'7" with an 84-inch reach. You're still at a massive disadvantage here. Give me Robeles Despaigne. I actually like this number, -170. That's probably as low as you're going to see. I expect him to be -225-ish by fight night. So, yeah, give me Robeles here. I think he knocks him out.
Yeah, I agree. We saw him in Miami. He made that octagon look tiny, man.
Yeah,
he is just freaking huge. And I think the UFC wants this guy to go far because they lost Francis Ngannou. Now they get this guy that's knocking dudes out in under 20 seconds in his last 4 fights. I think he's going to be super marketable. I mean, he's a Cuban guy that's just like a freak of nature. And I think they matched him up against Waldo because Waldo's not a terrible fighter, but he's not a guy that's going to wrestle you. He's not a guy that has big finishing upside. He's a boxer. And Robelis Despaigne is, the Taekwondo, bronze medalist or whatever.
Yeah.
Waldo doesn't do well with kicks. He doesn't at all. You watch any of his UFC fights. He does terrible with leg kicks. And I think Despaigne's just a much better athlete, going to hit a lot harder. And we're talking heavyweights. Like, I know you can give this whole breakdown as to like why Waldo Cortes is a good bet at like plus 150 or whatever. Got more experience, better cardio, better boxing skills or whatever. This is heavyweights, man. I don't think any of that shit matters. Like, Robelis Despaigne hits him once, it's over. And he's going to land. Like, there's not a chance that Waldo doesn't eat 5 or 6 punches in the first round. Like, he's going to land some stuff. He's got a much longer reach. He's bigger. He's got more weapons as far as striking goes. I think Despaigne here all day. Waldo's never been knocked out, but he hasn't met Robelis Despaigne. So, and you look at his UFC fights, like Andrei Arlovsky ain't knocking anybody out. Lucas Dresky not knocking anybody out. Chase Sherman ain't knocking anybody out. Jared Vandera sure ain't not knocking anybody out. So those are his UFC wins.
Those dudes were chewing up his legs too.
Yeah. I mean, I think Robelis gets this done in one. And I'll take him for the pick. Moving along, we got Alex Caceres coming in as the underdog against Sean Woodson. I believe Sean Woodson, another St. Louis boy.
Yep.
So he's going to have the home crowd on his side. He's coming in here as the favorite. And he's, always got that big frame, 6'2", 78-inch reach. Alex Caceres is 5'10", 73.5-inch reach for him. So going to be a little bit undersized. Not really something he's super used to because he's kind of a longer, taller featherweight, but nobody's going to be as long and as tall as Sean Woodson. So interesting matchup. What are you thinking?
Yeah, definitely an interesting matchup. For Woodson though, he's had some good wins in the UFC. He's looked good at times. I think he uses his length really well. Like, this dude at 6'2" at 145 pounds is going to tower over everybody. 78-inch reach. Like, this dude has the same reach as Waldo Cortes Acosta, who's a heavyweight. I mean, Woodson used to box at heavyweight. If you look at the pictures you'll see all week leading up to this, they're hilarious. And that's always been his strong point, is the boxing is good. And at 145, guys can't really get close to him because of his length, because of his jab. He fights really well with it. Doesn't have the most power in his hands by any means. I mean, we saw him knock out Terrence McKinney on the Contender Series with a flying knee, and we saw him knock out Colin Anglin in the first round. But other than that, like, this guy goes to decisions quite a bit, and he goes to really close decisions as well. I mean, the last one with Charles Jourdain was split, but I mean, he beat Charles Jourdain. I think that fight, in Canada with Charles Jourdain on it probably had a little bit to do with it. But then he's going to split decisions, with Luis. I guess this one was a draw, Luis Saldana, where he was hurt in the first round. He beat Yusuf Zalal by split decision. Like, this guy's in close fights. And Alex Caceres is another guy who's a very good striker as well. He uses his kicks really well. And I think it all comes down to that for him in this one against Woodson, who leaves his lead leg out there, who has very, very skinny, long legs. Woodson, being a boxer, needs that weight on that front foot. And if Alex Caceres can come in and start kicking it, I think it gives him a decent shot to win. Like, Caceres has a ton of experience in the UFC. He's fought everybody. I think his first UFC fight was in 2011. Like, this dude's almost a 15-year vet at this level. Beaten guys. Daniel Pineda's a very tough guy. That was his last win last June. Beats Julian Erosa, Sung Woo Choi, Kevin Kroom, Chase Hooper, Steve Peterson. The guys fought everybody. I do think in this one, though, if Caceres can't get the leg kicks going, I think he's got to worry about the volume and the jab and trying to close the distance without getting clipped with something or hit with something. And I think, it's going to look like a repetitive fight. Sean Woodson lands a combo, backs up. Caceres tries to close the distance, gets touched up again. That's what would concern me if you're on the Caceres sides. But, I think for me, it's a dog or pass here, especially with a guy with this many fights, this much experience. He's a very technical striker as well. He's going to have a good game plan. He wins more than he loses at this level. And for Woodson, man, he beats guys, but he just hasn't impressed me. To where I'm ready to lay minus 183 against a certified vet. So give me Caceres in this fight. I don't know. What do you got on this? You on the Caceres side?
I'm tempted to. I think this fight's going to end up being really boring just because Caceres is a guy that stays to the outside and Woodson's a guy that likes to fight off the back foot and just uses length and uses boxing combinations. And I don't know that Caceres is really going to allow him to unleash those because he uses a lot of kicks. So he's going to be able to land some kicks on Sean Woodson. At some point, man, Sean Woodson's going to get his leg broken because those things are like stilts, man. Like, I don't know how they haven't already. At some point, it's got to happen. They're so damn skinny. And I think Caceres could be able to do some damage from the outside. If he gets in on the inside, he's got to be all the way in. And let's not forget, like, Alex Caceres is a pretty damn good grappler as well. Like, he could find a way to push him up against the cage, maybe find his back up against the cage, something like that. Sean Woodson's a tough guy to take down, just being so tall and he's able to post on his limbs and stuff like that. But yeah, I don't know. I mean, Sean Woodson doesn't really over impress in any of his fights. He just has a way of like winning minutes, staying to the outside, and racking up the significant strikes, I guess. It's a big step up here. I do look at that Woodson and Rosa fight, and Rosa subbed him in the third, but he just kept coming forward, just kept making it a dogfight, just really made Sean Woodson work. And I think he just eventually wore him down to the point where he was able to get him to the ground and sub him. I think if Caceres does that, he's got a good chance to win, but it's not really the way he fights. So it's tough to have confidence that he goes out there and does that. I'd probably chalk it up to a dogger pass, though. I don't like minus 183 on Woodson. I got him his last fight against Jourdain as plus 175 or something like that. And now it's a huge swing. I think it's a step up in competition. It doesn't really make sense, I think, at minus 183. So I'll go dog or pass. I'll take Caceres.
Yeah, Woodson's not really a guy you're betting on as a favorite. Dog money, he's always in close fights, so yes. But he also, like, in his wins, especially recently, like his opponents aren't really giving him much to think about. Like Charles Jourdain was kind of boxing with him, not really giving him much to think about as far as the takedowns or anything. Same thing with Dennis Bazooka. So when he doesn't have the big leg kick or the takedown or submission threat, like he's just out there doing his thing and flowing and boxing, and it just allows him to get to a decision and land more volume. Like if Caceres can just put him against the cage one time, or threaten a takedown or possibly even get one or just start chewing up the leg, now Sean Woodson's thinking about it. Now he's got to worry about something else besides just landing combinations and catching you on the way in. So Caceres can make it a little dirty. I think it's going to play into his favor for sure. So I think Caceres knows that. I mean, the guy is a almost 15-year vet, so he's going to have a good game plan.
I agree. Moving along, we got Diego Ferreira coming in as the underdog against Mateusz Rebecki, sitting at minus 300. Interesting fight here because Ferreira is 39, but he's got a ton of experience, a ton of high-level experience. He's coming off a win against Michael Johnson, a knockout win at that. But if you look a little bit deeper, he was on 3-fight losing streak, coming to Mateusz Gamrot, Gregor Gillespie, and Beneil Dariush. So nothing to hang your head about. But he did lose those fights. And he's taken on Mateusz Rebecki, who's somewhat green in the UFC, but does have a lot of high-level experience on the regional scene. It's 18 or 19-1. And it looks like just a fire hydrant that's got some big power on the feet and really good wrestling, really good grappling. So that's probably why you see him as a favorite here. But Diego Ferreira, big plus money. What are you thinking?
Yeah, this is man, minus 300 is tough for me on any fighter, but Mateusz has looked good against everybody. Even against Fiore, who he should have finished, I would say. He just completely dominated. 3 takedowns in the 3 rounds, 89 significant strikes at 34. And then everybody else who's getting in there with him are just dying to either the leg kicks like Loic Radzhabov, or, he hits Roosevelt Roberts with a few shots, gets a takedown and submits him via armbar. Like, this guy's so well-versed. He can get you on the mat. He can wrestle with you. or if you want to stand and trade with you, he's got so much power that he's going to hurt you at some point, whether it be to the body, to the leg, or upstairs. Like this guy is a very scary dude to get in there with. But on the flip side, Diego Ferreira is kind of kill or be killed most of the time as well. This guy has knocked out, Michael Johnson in their fight where, I thought Johnson was winning slightly, just landing some bigger shots. And then Diego just hit him with that overhand right that catches Michael Johnson all the time and put him stiff. So yeah, I don't know. I think Diego comes in here, and if he wins, it's got to be some kind of early finish, because if he starts landing big and Mateus doesn't like what he's feeling on the feet, he's going to mix in the wrestling. And Diego's only got a 63% takedown defense. Like, he's not out there stuffing everybody's takedowns by any means. We saw Gregor Gillespie take him down 4 times. Gamrot, who's a damn good wrestler, obviously took him down 4 times before kneeing him and beating Ferreira there. So he is able to be taken down. Rebecki lands a lot of takedowns. He lands big shots. We've seen Diego KO'd stiff before. So, yeah, I think this fight doesn't last that long. Either way, I'm not saying Rebecki's untouchable, because Diego Ferreira has some heat in his hands too. But I like this fight to end in the first round, actually. I think this is a firefight from the bell. So I'm going to take Rebecki. More ways to win, more tools, but a very dangerous fight for both guys.
Yeah. If you look at his losses for Ferreira, it's like he's losing to grapplers, Gamrot, Gillespie, Dariush, and then Rebecki's got some damn good grappling and some good submission skills at that.
Losing by knockout to those guys too.
Yeah, I mean, he's getting finished on the ground. Like, Rebecki's got some meaty ground and pound, I'll tell you that.
Yeah.
So it kind of seems like the writing's on the wall. Ferreira's almost 40 years old, but there is always the threat of, like, Ferreira's got some good submissions himself. So, and he's gonna go for him. He's gonna have to go for him. Then I look at Rebecki. He's 5'7". He's a fucking fire hydrant, man. Like, yeah, how are you gonna to choke that guy out with something? Got to be something crazy, like some kind of triangle choke that you snatch up, which is a possibility, but I don't really see it. I think Rebecki probably wins. He's solid on the feet, solid on the ground, and he's a finisher too. It's like, it's tough to go against guys that are that good and they finish fights. So I'm gonna go with Rebecki.
Yeah, I mean, he's just got, like, what you start worrying about the takedown. Now you're worried. Now you're getting hit with big shots. Like, you're worried about the big shot. Now you're getting taken down.
Yeah,
he's just a very good, well-rounded fighter.
Under 2.5 in that fight. It's only -175.
No shit.
Yeah,
that's crazy.
Yeah, it's not too bad. Might have to lock it in, but Rebecki would be the pick. Keep her moving. Alonzo Menifield coming in as the dog against Carlos Ulberg. Ulberg is coming off a win against Dawoon Jung. And I saw that he hasn't fought in a while. I mean, not since UFC 293, but he's had 3 canceled bouts. I guess that's why it feels like a while. But I'll never forget that one, because I had Carlos Ulberg by decision. And it goes to a decision, or it goes, the final bell rings, and then they watch it back and see that Dawoon Jung tapped to a rear naked choke with like 11 seconds left. And there goes my Ulberg decision bet. So that one stung, but he's on a 5-fight win streak. He's coming in as a favorite here against Menifield, who's coming off an upset win against Dustin Jacoby at UFC 296. He is 4-0-1 in his last 5. So he's on a win streak as well. What are you thinking?
Yeah, this is a fun one and a tough one, because both guys obviously as dangerous as they come. Like, if you take Carlos Ulberg here, I think early in the fight you're going to be clenching your cheeks, because Menifield throws bombs, he hits hard, and he's not scared to stand and trade with you if it means he's got a chance at finding the knockout. Menifield's got a little momentum too. We saw him at UFC 290 choke out Jimmy Crute. If you were on the knockout in that fight, I feel bad for you. And then he goes in there and beats Dustin Jacoby by this unanimous decision at UFC 296. We were there for both fights. I thought he lost to Dustin Jacoby, but he did get the knockdown and a takedown, and then was outstruck. So you take damage over volume, I guess there, and you can't really be mad at the Menifield decision. But he is riding a 2-fight win streak. And he's just dangerous. He's a tank. He's 6 foot tall. He's built like a brick house. He marches forward, and it will hit you with some big shots. But he does tend to slow down a little bit, And against the guy who's very technical with a lot of power like Carlos Ulberg, I think as this fight goes on and Carlos Ulberg starts finding the body, it can become his fight, and he could take over for sure if there's not an early finish in this one. Carlos Ulberg went to decision with only Fabio Chiron. Is that right? Oh shit, yeah. I'm still thinking he beat Daeun Jung by decision because it technically made it there and they went back.
Yeah.
But throughout that fight, he landed some good shots and he threw a lot of volume. He averages 7.29 significant strikes per minute in the UFC. With a decent amount of UFC fights so far. So the guy is able to throw a lot of volume. His striking defense isn't terrible. I just think he's going to be better, obviously, than Menifield. It's just you just got to watch out for the KO, and nobody's really been able to clip Carlos yet, besides Kennedy and Zechiku. So, yeah, I don't know if Menifield's going to have the attributes like the length. He's going to be quite a bit shorter. I just don't see him pulling it off in this spot. I think Ulberg is a guy who's constantly getting better as well. City kickboxing guys, got some good training partners, some good coaches. I'm going to look for him to beat Menifield here. But minus 230 is not it for me.
Yeah, Ulberg's a legit kickboxer. But Alonzo Menifield just beat a legit kickboxer, Dustin Jacoby. So I think Ulberg probably tries to keep this fight at range, just kind of stick and move and probably work his way to a decision. I don't see why he would stand in the pocket and trade with Alonzo, because that's just kind of giving him a chance to clip you with something. And left hook from Alonzo was the weapon he used to knock down Dustin Jacoby twice. So it's dangerous, and it doesn't even need to land, that clean. Those are like straight arm hooks. They weren't even like clean hooks, just straight arm. Throw the left arm out there, slap it out there, and put it on the chin, and he went down. I think Ulberg's technical enough to win this fight by a decision. Menifield, he tends to kind of rush in sometimes if he's going to be aggressive, and maybe Ulberg could clip him with something, but I kind of feel like Ulberg's not going to look to, just throw bombs early. I think he's just going to try to win this fight via decision, stay safe. But if Menifield can hang around, get to rounds 2 and 3, that's when guys start to make mistakes. You start to get a little bit tired. We saw it in the Jacoby fight. Like, Jacoby won round 1 pretty easily. Goes to round 2, he gets clipped. Goes to round 3, he's winning again, and then he gets clipped. That's when guys get tired. That's when they leave their hands up, and that's when Menifield can take over. So I don't think Menifield is a terrible play as the underdog price. I think Ulberg's the better kickboxer at this point. Menifield could also look to, throw in some takedowns as well. So I would probably chalk it up to a dog or pass. I'll take Ulberg for the pick, but I don't really like, minus 230 on a guy that he's going against Menifield, who's very dangerous and fairly durable throughout his career. So that's my breakdown for it. It's not really one that I'll be too invested in.
Here's the last thing I'll say about Menifield is really his only good win is Dustin Jacoby in the last fight, which was close. Other than that, he's beating Jimmy Crute, who retired at 27 years old after that fight. Misha Serkinov, Askar Mozarov, Ed Herman, Fabio Chiron, Paul Craig. I mean, those are his wins. And then he's getting knocked out by 2020 Oven St. Peru. He's getting beat by decision to Devin Clark. William Knight beat him by decision and outstruck him. I mean, William Knight, the one who landed like 6 significant strikes over 3 rounds against Marcin Prachnio. So, yeah, I don't know. I think this is going to be, from a striking standpoint, it's going to be a tough fight for Alonzo Menifield. Man, I don't know. I don't know if I see a lot of people on him as the dog. I just don't see it this week. I think Carlos Ulberg probably getting better, like I said earlier, and runs away with this fight in the second half.
Yeah, it's going to be really tough if Ulberg's just not there to be hit. It's going to look like he should be minus 500. And
yeah, Menifield almost has to wrestle.
Yeah, he's got to have a lot of forward pressure in this fight. Moving along, co-main event, Joaquin Buckley sitting at minus 160 against Nursultan Ruziboev, sitting as the underdog. It's an interesting fight. It's a fight that wasn't, both guys don't have a lot of time to turn around because they both fought on the UFC Atlantic City card. And then Buckley was wanting the main event. He ends up with a co-main event here against Nursultan. He's moving down to 170. Both of his UFC fights have been at 185. I think the plan has always been to move down to 170. He's getting it here against Buckley, who hometown kid. He's the favorite. I think he's the more skilled fighter. But at some point, man, like Ruziboev, he's dangerous in that first round. So dangerous. And I'm really scared for Buckley in that first round. But I do think he's the better fighter. What are you thinking?
Yeah, I really wish that we would have been able to see Ruziboev go past the round one against a guy like Cedriques Dumas, just to see what the cardio looks like at this level. But, you know, Ruziboev's a guy who's good striking, obviously. I mean, we saw it against Dumas, hit him with the nasty shot, poke the eye, whatever, however you feel about that. But at the end of the day, the dude does hold a lot of power in his hands. We saw him knock out Bruno Ferreira, who I believe was like 10 or 11-0 with a bunch of knockouts. The guy hits very hard. He's very tall. He's 6'5", 76-inch reach. You know, being that big at 170 can make it very difficult for other strikers to try to find him and try to close the distance to get there. But Buckley is a guy who is very good at closing the distance. He's very quick. He's very fast. I think his new home at 170 suits him very well. The big problem with Buckley for me is notoriously he's a very his striking accuracy isn't very good at all. It's all the way down at 34%. So he lands 4 per minute. So he's throwing a ton of volume to be landing that many shots at only 34%. But, you know, he swings and misses a lot. He can get countered. We've seen him knocked out by Chris Curtis. We saw him got knocked out by Alessio De Chirico and then Kevin Holland in his very first debut. I mean, if Ruziboev connects like any of those guys did, I think it's all she wrote for sure. Ruziboev uses that length and leverage very well. On the flip side, too, if Buckley doesn't like what he's feeling on the feet and he can't close the distance and find the shots and tries to wrestle, I know Buckley's never been submitted, but Ruziboev has more submissions than any other type of win on his record. The guy's very dangerous with the jiu-jitsu. So, yeah, I just – it makes me nervous for Buckley, like you said, especially in the first round. But, I mean, if this fight gets past round one, Buckley's got the cardio. He's going to be in front of his home crowd. You know, the adrenaline's going to be flowing. I'm not going to be surprised to see him start to take over this fight. And I'm not going to be surprised to see Ruziboev start to gas because Buckley does push a pace that can be hard to keep up with. So, yeah, for the pick, I'm going to rock with Buckley as the hometown kid, minus 160. You know, there's still a lot to be discovered of Ruziboev, especially what he looks like past round one. Like seems like it's been a while since we've seen him there. So, yeah, give me Buckley here. Not a confident play by any means. I'm not betting Buckley at minus 160 at all. I actually think this line could get a little bit closer as the week goes on. Once, you know, these people want to bet on fights, start to see the size of this guy. They see how he's done his last 2 opponents in the UFC. I think money comes in on him at plus money, and you can get Buckley at a better price if that's how you're feeling.
Yeah, I don't really like laying chalk against these guys that like prospects that are you don't really know too much about them, and like we really just haven't seen a lot of tape on Ruziboev. Moving down to 170, I don't know how he's gonna look. Like he is fairly skinny for 6'5", but like make 170 at 6'5" is pretty tough. And
Yeah,
he looks huge at 185. He's gonna look huge at 170. I don't know that I would really like the Joaquin Buckley side pre-flop. Like I'd rather just take him live after round one if it gets there. And I'll probably bet Ruziboev round one TKO or something like that, just because Joaquin Buckley's there to be hit. Like he has really solid movement from the outside, but when he goes in, Ruziboev just continually waits for that counter. He just waits with that right hand cocked and ready to go, and he's waiting for you to come in, and he's just shooting it right down the pipe. I feel like Buckley could try to throw something, whether it's a kick gets catched and just right hand down the pipe. So Ruziboev round one, and then we'll play it from there. But yeah, I don't know. I mean, it's minus 160 on Buckley. Could end up looking really good if, you know, he just is able to outlast him and then just puts it on him in round 2, round 3. We don't really even know if his cardio is that bad. You know, we just haven't seen it. We don't know. So there's a lot of unknowns in this fight. I'll take Buckley for the pick, but Ruziboev round one's probably going to make my card.
Yeah, I mean, there's indications that it might not be the best. So if you look at his like regional scene record, his losses are all coming basically by decision. Like if the fight and most of his wins are round one, and then a couple round 2, and then like one where he won by corner stoppage in round 3. So like this guy is losing fights when they get extended. He's winning fights when he finishes them early. It just makes me think, at some point in the middle of fights, especially against a guy like Buckley, now you're at the highest level of mixed martial arts. Like once it hits there, I feel like Buckley could for sure take over this fight.
Yeah, but you look at those, like, he's fighting almost every month.
Yeah.
Like, I guess, like, he's just fighting damn near literally every month. Like, there's a reason he's got, what, 40 some fights, 43, 45 fights under his record. So, yeah, I don't know. There's just so many unknowns. Ruziboev has dangerous early. Buckley would obviously win if it goes later. So that's all you need to know at that point.
Yeah.
Main event, Derek Lewis coming in as the favorite against Rodrigo Nascimento. The Black Beast is back. And he's a favorite, but not that big of a favorite. Nascimento, big jump up here. His best win is Dante O'Mays. Is that his best win at this point? He's beaten him twice. But I mean, he's on a 3-fight winning streak. Before that, he beat Alain Badeau, but it got overturned to a no contest because he popped for something he wasn't supposed to be having. And then he got knocked out by Chris Daukaus. Let me say that again. He got knocked out by Chris Daukaus. And Derek Lewis, coming off a loss to Gelton Almeida. And, he's had a rough go of it, but he's fighting a lot better guys like Cyril Gane, tied to Ivasa, Sergey Spivak, Sergey Pavlovich. I mean, I think you know what side I'm on based on the way I'm talking, but like, come on now. Derek Lewis, I think he's got every right to knock out Rodrigo Nascimento in this one. Like, you get knocked out by Chris Daukaus. He damn near got knocked out by Alain Badeau in that first round. If you go back and watch that fight, he was on skates. And then he ended up winning because Badeau gassed out. And then he's going to split decision with Latifi Bozer. And his best win is Dante O'Mays? I got to go Black Beast, man. I think he's able to knock him out. I think the only path to victory for Nascimento is to wrestle him, grapple him up, but he's not even that good at it. So I got to go Derek Lewis. What are you thinking?
Yeah, I'm on the same exact side. I actually think the Black Beast knocks him out badly here. Like Derek's last 2 losses are Gelton Almeida, where he was taken down 6 times, controlled for probably 24 minutes.
Yeah.
And in Sergey Spivak, who took him down 6 times and then submitted him. Like Rodrigo Nascimento is not an explosive wrestler like that. He's only lands takedowns at 33%. And when you're not a great wrestler, and Derek Lewis, even though he's been taken down a lot, like he's very good at standing back up. He's a strong guy. Like if you don't have a good technical wrestling style, it's hard to get him down. And if you're going to sit there on the feet with them, you're in danger at all times. Nascimento doesn't have a single good win in the UFC, in my opinion. Dante O'Mays, like you said, twice. Ilir Latifi, where he was actually taken down multiple times in the fight. And like Tanner Bozer, and I forget who he fought on the Contender Series. But other than that, he's got the knockout loss to Chris Daukaus and the no contest with Badeau, and those are his fights. So Derek Lewis, before I go on to Derek Lewis, Nascimento also has a negative striking differential, meaning he gets hit with more than he lands. And if you're telling me that up against the knockout king, if Derek Lewis lands 1 time, this fight could be over for sure. I mean, and all these stats tell you that Derek Lewis will land his shots throughout this fight. I honestly don't think. I think if anybody gasses, like death gasses in this fight too at heavyweight, I think you'd rather have a Derek Lewis ticket over Nascimento. Like if Nascimento gets tired, Derek Lewis at least throws bombs while he's tired and has a chance to clip you as well. I just think everything points to Lewis here. If I'm being honest, I don't think the UFC is rushing to push Rodrigo Nascimento as a guy they want to market. Whereas Derek Lewis, you put him in these fight night main events and you set him up for a win. Now we get to do it again next year. People are going to buy tickets to see the knockout show. Like I think the UFC is not done with Derek Lewis. Maybe not pushing him for titles, but definitely these like little filler fight night main events, co-main events. Put him on the main card. Get people their money's worth with a big knockout. So yeah, I think this is a fight where they think Derek Lewis can for sure knock him out. Gave him the main event slot. So, I got to go with him here. -165 too. I mean, I'd like to see the knockout line. At least you're going to get closer to plus to even money on a Derek Lewis KO in a fight where he could definitely do it. So, yeah, give me the Black Beast. I like it.
Yeah, let's not forget, after that Rogerio de Lima win, that was the last fight on his contract. He got a brand new contract.
Yep.
And he took that fight against Almeida on short notice, pretty much just to save the card. And he didn't get finished. Like he was still there. And he honestly had his moments. Like when Almeida wasn't on top of him, he had his moments where like Jelton Almeida bettors were probably clinching their cheeks.
Yeah.
Nascimento, I just don't think is that good. Like he's able to beat these guys like a Don'Tale Mays, the guys that just don't have big finishing upside. Like Ilir Latifi, Tanner Boser, those are guys he can beat because he's pretty well skilled. Like he's okay. He has decent stand up, decent takedowns, decent grappling. But none of that matters. We talked about it earlier with heavyweights. Like one big shot is all it takes. And that's what Derek Lewis is all about. And you watch fights that Rodrigo Nascimento is in with guys that have any type of power. There's not many of them out there. But go watch the Alan Bodo fight and tell me Derek Lewis isn't finishing him in the first round. Like he put it on Nascimento, and Alan Bodo is a straight bum, like a bum off the streets of France. Derek Lewis would finish that fight in an instant, and he got knocked out by Chris Dawkins in 45 seconds. So it's Black Beast all day. I think it's a great line we're getting, honestly. I love it. I love it. That's the breakdown for UFC St. Louis. Appreciate y'all for watching. Like and subscribe if you enjoyed. Once again, if you want all the bets, you can join the HOF Picks premium membership. Links down in the description below. That's where you get all of our bets for UFC St. Louis. Follow us on HOF Picks on IG. Stay up to date with everything at HOF Picks on the medias. For me, where can they find you?
All social media is at the Parlay MMA.
Appreciate y'all. Till next time, the Double Leg sign out.